It won't be long now. Please, just stay. What a crazy thing this was. Life. At least I won't have to turn 30. Hooray! Wish I could have died at home with my friends. Have you ever been to Greenland? It's very beautiful. Well, at least when you get out of the city. Nanook is busy, and yes, there's like 12 million people trying to get around, but it's a great place. Or rather, it was a great place before the comet ended it all. You know what? I prefer it this way. I liked pathos. Liked my colleagues. Ian, Nick, Jasper, even Catherine. People thought she was weird because she was quiet, but she was cool. Simon, you're still there?
I'm here, Sarah.
Don't let him die, okay? Send them out there. To the stars.
Death. Today, the day that this video goes live, Thursday the 5th of March 2026, death feels just a little closer than normal. It's something that every one of us has dealt with or will deal with, either through the loss of loved ones or eventually even our own deaths. I want to start this video essay by talking about my personal relationship with death, before we move on and look at how sci-fi games such as SOMA and Cyberpunk 2077 deal with death, and in fact use fictional technology to circumvent it entirely. I'll be honest, I have phantophobia, otherwise known as death anxiety. This is a persistent, intense fear of death. What this means is that I think about death a lot. The death of my loved ones, my own death, and what death even is. I've spent hours upon hours laying in bed, unable to sleep, trying to imagine what being dead is like. I'm not a religious person. I've tried, I've searched for faith. I've read the Bible and I didn't find it there. I've read books on Wiccan and Wiccanism and all of that stuff, more spirituality, and I didn't find any faith there. I've spoken to Jewish folk about their faith and I've not found it there. None of it works for me. While I'm not here to tell anyone that their faith is wrong, because it's just not, personally, I can't reconcile the lack of any evidence with myself. This means that it's my personal belief that death is just the absence of life, awareness, consciousness, and the absence of, well, everything. So when I'm laying in bed, trying to imagine what death is like, what I'm trying to do is picture nothingness. The void. Not darkness. I mean like real nothingness. Not even darkness, just nothing. No sight, no sound, no taste, no smell, no feeling, not even any thought. Nothing. Which is, of course, impossible. Which only makes me more afraid. Then I spiral. I begin thinking about my grandparents, my aunt, and my friend, all of whom are now just, well, nothing. Then I think about how that nothing, that void, is coming for my parents, my wife, my parents-in-law, my sister, fuck, even for me. And before I say what comes next, I need to promise you that I am okay mentally. I love my wife, I love my family, I love my entire life. I'm okay. I have phantophobia. It's something that I've dealt with for most of my life, all of my adult life. While I do have these feelings, they're not anything to worry about. With that being said, I've gotten so panicked about this fear of death that I've actually used logic to paradoxically consider suicide. My logic goes thus. I'm going to die. There's no way around that. Even if I live to 500 or 5 billion years old, which I won't, I will eventually die. That's just the way it is. Now, due to my fear of death, I'm going to be obsessively thinking about it until I do die. And the only way to stop thinking about it, to stop worrying about it, is to stop all of this, is to ironically bite the bullet and, well, bite the bullet. Now, once again, please don't worry about me. I am well aware that this logic is stupid and, well, illogical. I don't want to leave my wife, my parents, my sister. I don't want to stop making these videos, reading my books, writing my stories, or playing my games, or anything else. All of this is to say that I'm not going to bite the bullet. I have no intentions to end my life in any way. You do not need to worry about me. These is just how my thoughts go when I spiral into my phantophobia. And I mention this because the paradoxical nature of my logic around death is reflected within the first game that I want to examine today, SOMA. So, without any further ado, let's do further. The year is 21003, and the Paphos 2 research station at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean regularly uses projected scans of human brains to control complex undersea drones. Essentially, a human brain is scanned in real time, and that projection is then placed inside the digital mind of the drone. From the perspective of the pilot, they are taken out of their human body and placed into the robotic body of the drone, able to control it the same way that they would their human body. After the Talos asteroid wipes out all human life on the surface of Earth, Dr. Catherine Chun within the Paphos 2 station begins her work on the ARC project. Dr. Chun uses the same technology that allowed human consciousnesses to be projected into the robotic drones to save some aspect of humanity. She collects perfect scans of everyone within the Paphos 2 research station, saving them so that they can be uploaded into the ARC. The ARC is a utopian paradise contained on the hard drive of a satellite, with the brain scans of every Paphos 2 staff member contained inside. From the perspective of those scans within the ARC satellite, they would be living within a world as real as the one outside was to the organic versions of themselves, the only difference being that they would be forever young, forever healthy, and in a world of endless abundance and beauty. They would have achieved digital immortality. The only issue, and where we begin to see the paradox that I mentioned earlier, is with the issue of continuity. It's not possible to transfer a human consciousness over to the ARC, only to copy one. This means that while the digital copy will experience a continuous progression of time flow, the organic original will never experience life within the ARC. Basically, from the perspective of the organic consciousness, they would sit down in the scanning chair, have the helmet lower over their head, wait a few minutes for the scan to finish, and then they would get up and continue with their lives within Paphos 2's research station. Still an organic human. But from the perspective of the digital consciousness, they would sit down in the scanning chair, have the helmet lower over their head, wait a couple of minutes for the scan to finish, and then open their eyes to find themselves within the digital utopia of the ARC. After the scan, there will always, and I mean always, be two versions of the person scanned. The organic consciousness and the digital consciousness, both as real as each other. The thing is that desperate times do strange things to the human mind, and the end of all life on Earth makes for some really desperate times. Mark Serang, an intelligent analyst on Paphos 2, believed that if you were to die at the exact moment that the scan concluded, then there would never be two versions of yourself, guaranteeing that you would be the version to make it onto the ARC. He coined this belief continuity, and it spread across Paphos 2. It became almost common for folk to kill themselves immediately after the scan to ensure that they made it onto the ARC. The thing is, This just isn't how any of the technology worked. There will always be two versions of the person scanned. The organic version killing themselves doesn't change that at all. All it does is end the life of the organic person. The tragedy of Mark Serang's continuity is that people that believed it were paradoxically killing themselves because they believed that it would make them immortal, when in reality they were only ending their own lives early. Ultimately, the game ends with the Ark being launched into space, thanks to the player character and a digital version of Dr. Chun. Those people scanned, including Mark Serang, did achieve a version of digital immortality, but one that still left their organic self mortal. SOMA asked the questions: what is life? What is it to be alive? And can a machine be alive? Despite SOMA featuring the end of the world, the end of all organic life on Earth, I actually think it has a really positive answer to those questions. This is to say that SOMA ends on a somewhat hopeful note, that despite humans shedding their organic bodies and leaving their home planet behind, humanity does persevere. Maybe not in its original organic form, but humanity does survive, with the handful of human digital consciousnesses contained on board the Ark, drifting endlessly through space, existing seemingly forever. Although this isn't the only example of human minds uploaded into a digital consciousness, we see this idea spread across the entire science fiction genre. Examples include Black Mirror's Cookies, Lawnmower Man's Job Smith, or Neuromancer's Constructs. Within gaming, we have Johnny Silverhand from the 2020 video game Cyberpunk 2077, which is what we're going to look at next, as we have two examples of technological immortality that I'd like to break down within that game. The year is 2023. Local rock star Johnny Silverhand performs his last ever gig. He's high as a kite and angry at mega corporation Arasaka. He pours his fury into his music, but it doesn't help. His rage knows no bounds. After the show, he takes off with his on-again off-again partner Rogue to assault Arasaka's Night City headquarters. He attacks with an armoured military helicopter, lands on the roof and shoots his way down to the nearest lift. He's captured on his way out and brought to an Arasaka facility, where he's tortured before his consciousness is copied over to a device known as a biochip. The chip remains within Arasaka possession until 2077, when up-and-comer mercenary V breaks into the Arasaka Hotel, Kopeki Plaza, and steals the biochip. V is ultimately spotted escaping the hotel and is killed, shot in the head. This is when the nanobots within the biochip get to work and repair the damage to V's body, bringing them back to life, but ultimately overwriting their consciousness with the consciousness of Johnny Silverhand. They are resurrected, but they are handed a death sentence at the same time. It's an ironic joke, the universe laughing at its victims. The game can end a few ways depending on how the player plays the game and the choices they make within it. But the ending that I'm interested in sees Johnny Silverhand taking over V's body and being given a second chance at life. This is similar to the digital consciousnesses in SOMA being given a second chance at life on board the Ark. The biggest difference is that Johnny gets a biological body along with his second chance at life. Unlike those digital consciousnesses on board the Ark, or even Johnny when he existed on the biochip, Johnny's not immortal anymore. He will age and eventually he will die again. I find this one difference fascinating, since it seems to tie meaning to the biological nature of life and living. Like SOMA before it, Cyberpunk 2077 asks the questions: what is life? What is it to be alive? And can a machine be alive? Where SOMA answered that machines can indeed be alive and humans are humans with or without their biological bodies, Cyberpunk 2077 seems to come to a slightly different conclusion. We can see from the various digital consciousnesses seen during Cyberpunk 2077, particularly Old Cunningham, that a human consciousness separated from its biological body becomes something different, something no longer human. This does make sense when you think about it. We are not just our brains and nervous systems, we are the sum total of our entire bodies. When we're hungry, our stomachs release a hormone that tells our brains that we're hungry. It's what creates that feeling of hunger. Tiredness, in a similar sense, is a build-up of another neurotransmitter, which can be blocked by caffeine, by the way, hence our addiction to it. We get sad or even depressed when our brains run low on certain chemicals such as serotonin or dopamine, and happy or excited when our brains get those chemicals. All of these chemicals are produced and released by different parts of our body. If we lost that bodies, and by process of losing the body, we lost those chemicals as well, would we remain human? I have to say, I don't think we necessarily would. To be clear, I think we would still be a consciousness and alive, but I don't think we'd still be strictly human. Similar to Alt Cunningham within Cyberpunk 2077, I think that we've become something different. Something more detached, less emotional, less spontaneous, less erratic, and ultimately less human. Not lesser than human, but no longer strictly human. I think that a digital consciousness removed from its body, removed from the chaotic cocktail of chemicals that our brains are constantly swimming in, would be as different from humans as humans are from other great apes like gorillas. There are similarities, but the differences are just as obvious. This digital consciousness would be a kind of new evolutionary species. Homo machina, the machine human. What's interesting is, unlike SOMA, within Cyberpunk 2077, to achieve this state of digitized human consciousness, the host must die. The very act of uploading your consciousness kills the organic body. We see this with Johnny, and we see it again with Alt. There cannot exist both a digital consciousness and an organic consciousness at the same time. This raises the question, within Cyberpunk's world, when a person becomes a digital consciousness, do they die? Is Johnny alive? Is Alt alive? Are the consciousnesses we speak to within Cyberpunk 2077, both Johnny and Alt Cunningham, or are they just a computer code imitating Johnny and Alt's personalities perfectly? This is a tough question, and one that doesn't really have a definitive answer within the game. But if they're not alive, then what about the ending where Johnny takes over V's body? Is he alive then? If he's not alive as code, but he is within V's body, then what is it about the presence of an organic body that changes that? If you believe that the digital consciousnesses within Cyberpunk 2077 do not count as alive, but Johnny at the end of the game within V's body does count as alive, then I'd really like you to explain why in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in understanding the reasoning. While there is no definitive answer to these questions, the game writing intentionally leaving them vague, I do believe myself that both Johnny and Alt are alive as digital consciousnesses. Their lives do have value, and so does V's if you decide to follow Alt behind the black wall at the end of the game and become an unbound digital consciousness like Alt Cunningham. While they may no longer be human, because our body is as much a part of us as our brain or nervous system are, their digital consciousnesses are still alive and they do deserve to exist. Their existence is no less valuable than our own, just because they happen to be different from us. I don't want to die. That's a bit of a misnomer. While I don't look forward to pain, I'm not particularly scared of the act of dying. What I'm afraid of is not existing. I think about the time before I was born, every day prior to May 1992, and the fact that I have no awareness of that time terrifies me. I've come into existence, a consciousness in the void of non-consciousness, and the thought of returning to that void creates in me a fear that I cannot fully express. It scares me more than anything. I've had Christian folk in my life threaten me with never-ending torture in hell because of my sexuality. And to be honest, I welcome that idea. I'd jump into hell and be thankful for it if I could. Because although I'd be in ceaseless pain and misery, I would at least be. I'd rather live in the dark than not live at all. With my fear of death, my phantophobia explained. Let me ask myself a question then. Would I take digital immortality? The answer depends on what type of digital immortality it is. If it was like SOMA, then yes, in a heartbeat, there is no reason not to. The organic me, the me that I am now, would still eventually die, and I will not go gently into that good night. I will rage against the dying of the light. But the other me, the digital me, would live forever. That digital version of myself would have achieved what I would literally kill God for: immortality. If it was like Cyberpunk 2077, then the answer's no, never. While there would be a digital version of myself that would be thankful for the sacrifice that the organic version of myself had made, the organic version of myself just isn't willing to make that sacrifice. I guess in a way that's selfish, but it is the truth. And it does bring me back to the paradox that we started this entire journey with. The fact that my phantophobia is so great that I've used logic to conclude that the only way to escape my overwhelming fear of non-existence, of death, is to kill myself. My fear of death is so great that I'm unwilling to kill myself to become immortal. This is a mirror of that same paradox. The only way to stop fearing death is to die, yet I'm unwilling to die to achieve immortality. I've made this video because the dog that I grew up with, I spent my teenage years with, that I was there when she was born, and she's a member of my family. She's very unwell and very old, and she's being put down today. By the time this video goes out, she will no longer exist, and I hate that. I loved her. She was the most affectionate dog I've ever known, even though she was also possibly the dumbest dog I've ever known. And she was special. Like all dogs are, like all living things are, really. But now, she simply doesn't exist anymore. And I don't know how to deal with that, if I'm honest. I don't know how to deal with the fact that so many of my loved ones also no longer exist. So I made this video. And thank you for watching and listening to it, because I just wanted to discuss everything, really. I just wanted to discuss this, because death has felt closer today than it has in a long time, and death feels pretty damn close for me most of the time. So I felt that this video needed to go out today. So yes, I'm not going to say the normal YouTube stuff because it doesn't feel appropriate, but making this has been a sort of form of therapy in a way. It's allowed me to talk through these feelings in a way that I feel is healthy, and also, I hope, entertaining and interesting to you watching. But yeah, Cassie was a really great dog. She really was. She really was. And I'm gonna miss her so much. And I need to go now because I think I'm going to cry. So yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.